Go on the Facebook also. One second. You can't see it on the other thing, the my ICICI webinar thing. On the either ICICI this thing, I'm live on both the places. Uh, hmm, hmm. One second. Huh? Okay, now I'm live on the Facebook, but we are on, na? No, we have kept it on. Now the streaming is on. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come that way. इंटरनेट ये सब बाजू इंटरनेट का क्या हुआ? वन सेकेंड वन सेकेंड. वन सेकेंड. इंटरनेट ऑन है ना? ये वापस मुझे पुश करना पड़ेगा. One second. It was on just now. इंटरनेट नहीं है. ये गो लाइव क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? हाँ नाउ वी आर ऑन ना, लाइव है ना? नहीं ये पुराना है। दैट वाज बिफोर। Sulva, just give me 2 minutes. I'll go live and I'll call you back. Hello? Yeah, okay. स्ट्रीमिंग जरा बंद कर दे, स्ट्रीमिंग बंद कर देना। स्ट्रीमिंग बराबर से जा रहा है ना? बिकॉज आपका सिस्टम मुझे स्लो लग रहा है, नेट स्लो हो गया ऐसा तो नहीं है ना? यहाँ पे प्रीव्यू तो आना चाहिए। यही है, ये है ना बस। कहाँ गया लाइव? कहाँ आता है फेसबुक में? अभी क्या क्या आउटपुट है? हाँ इस पे बराबर से आ रहा है, इस पे क्यों नहीं आ रहा है? रिफ्रेश करूँ, ये तो गया ऐसे। हाँ साइड पे दिख रहा है। यही है, वॉज लाइव दिखा रहा है, वॉज लाइव दिखा रहा है, वॉज लाइव, यही सेम है बट वॉज लाइव दिखा रहा है। बट वॉज लाइव दिखा रहा है 3 minutes बैक। ये आ रहा है, इज लाइव नाउ, ये ऐसा आउटपुट आ रहा है। इस पे ऐसा आउटपुट क्यों आ रहा है? क्या करें? Shit यार, client is really nice यार, इतना होने के बावजूद भी she saying nothing। वो दूसरा कोई होता था चढ़ जाता था मेरे पर। हेलो देवराज, ये फेसबुक पे ग्रीन ग्रीन कलर का शेड आ रहा है, जबकि अपना वेबसाइट पे कुछ प्रॉब्लम लग रहा है मुझे। अपना वेबसाइट पे भी चेंज नहीं हो रहा है, स्लाइड चेंज नहीं हो रहा है, मतलब चेंज नहीं हो रहा है, पता नहीं अब। अपने फेसबुक पे तो ग्रीन ग्रीन का इज लाइव नाउ करके ग्रीन ग्रीन ऐसा आ रहा है, जरा देख। हाँ, ग्रीन लाइंस आ रहे हैं। अरे बट फेसबुक में ऐसा ग्रीन ग्रीन लाइंस कैसे आ रहे हैं? तू एम ही लेना यहाँ पे यार। मैं गोल। This is not good, Devraj. This is not good. 74611936. 74611936. अभी निकल गया, बंद नहीं किया है ना स्ट्रीमिंग। हेलो। हेलो। 74611936। हाँ, केबल में प्रॉब्लम है। केबल में अच्छा, लेकिन अपना ये ICICI लाइव वेबिनार देख। हेलो यार, पता नहीं यार। ठीक है अजीत, क्या करूं? अजीत से बात कर मैं तो कि क्या अभी तो ये पता नहीं, ये एक बार दो बार किया था ये, इसलिए मैंने बंद कर लीव दिस पेज करूं। एक सेकंड बंद कर दूं इसको। कौन से दो? ये बंद मत कर, ये क्यों? अभी भी लाइव ही है हम लोग, लाइव सबसे ऊपर आता है। हाँ लाइव है हूँ। हाँ ठीक है, ओके चल, ओके बाय। जरा तू मॉनिटर करेगा इसका हम लोग में,
इसका
ये फेसबुक का ही, शी सीइंग इट ओनली ऑन फेसबुक। Hi Sulba, I hope now you can see me properly. I'm on picture-in-picture format. I'll come on the screen right now. Please put me on the screen. Fine. So we begin our first slide, how to become a better photographer. Before that, we move to the next slide. This is about the introduction to Ashutosh Shinde. Banker by profession and a photographer by passion. Key interests: wildlife and nature conservation photography. Critical evaluation by mentors and continuous self-learning is the key for growth so far. You might hear an echo of what I'm saying, and that's because we are monitoring on 2-3 computers. So that's the reason. Now we move to the next slide. The next slide talks about want to become a photographer, why photography, why DSLR, do big lenses fascinate you, shoot in auto mode. We then move to the next slide. The next slide talks about types of photography and current market, how should one start, equipment to start photography, selection of correct equipment. We then move to the next slide. The next slide talks about types of photography, wildlife and nature photography, street and people photography, fashion photography, wedding and event photography, other commercial photography such as product, food, architectural, industrial and corporate, as well as sports photography. Now the biggest question that was answered very well by Ashutosh Shinde, I hope you had a chance of seeing the entire presentation, was get your basics right. If I'm not mistaken, he had basically talked about 3 or 4 parameters in photography. One that he talked about is basically the exposure that you need to give onto the lens. The second he talked about was the aperture. How much of aperture do you open up in order to get that particular thing? Now the third that was also very important that he talked about was if I'm not mistaken, the SLR something. We'll just quickly go through that because it was a very interesting presentation that he had given us. Okay. First is selection of camera. What camera do you want to select, whether it's DSLR or it's point and shoot? What is crop sensor body and full frame body, selection of lenses, and what all other accessories required and when. Now, as they rightly said, it is not the camera which is important, but it is the man behind the camera that makes all the difference. That's what he had talked about, the man behind the camera. So actually speaking, DSLR versus point and shoot camera, both appear to be the same. The visualization of a particular person, how he envisages this particular shot, is very important. I had the privilege of working with some of the best photographers during my agency work, and I still remember of a very senior photographer. Unfortunately, he's no more, and a very dear friend of mine. He had specifically said that if you consider photography as an English language, the lighting is the grammar of it, and you have to be very thorough in lighting in order to get your photography right. We move now to the next slide, which once again is very technical, basically talking about focal length, lens type, common type of photography. We then quickly move on to the next slide, and if you don't mind, if you can put me on the screen as well. My images come blurry. These are some of the few questions that are often asked. Can you just put me also on the screen so I can interact with this thing? Fine, thank you. Keep me that way, please, because I would prefer the PPT as well as the video to come. That's why we are using the PIP technology. Parameters of a particular camera. So we move to the next slide, and that is basically aperture. Now aperture controls how much amount of light should fall on sensor. Now what exactly does it mean is, if you look at a very bright sun, you close your eyes a little bit. Can I please have my video on the particular thing? So you close your eyes a little bit. When you close your eyes a little bit, you're actually not allowing light to come into your retina. Now assume your retina as the sensor and the aperture, which is your cornea, as the lens. So when you decrease the aperture, the amount of light that comes into it is basically lesser. We move to the next slide, where he's basically talking about the aperture. Now f1.4 basically means that you're increasing the aperture of the camera so that the more light can come onto the sensor, and f8 actually means you're lowering the aperture or making it smaller. We move to the next slide. This is a beautiful slide of a butterfly, and it has been very well captured on the screen. It's with f2.8. Now here the aperture has been reduced so that the background becomes blurry and the subject, basically that is the butterfly, is very prominently seen. We same photograph, if we increase the aperture a little bit and make it f13, you can see that the background also has increased, and the background is also visible along with the butterfly. Then we move to the shutter speed. Now, shutter speed basically controls the amount of time the light falls on the sensor. So if the light, if the shutter speed is reduced, basically, the amount of light that falls would be lesser, which means that if it is a very fast moving eagle that you want to shoot, your shutter speed has to be really small so that you can capture it exactly what you want to capture. So it is denoted by 1 slash of a second, for instance, 1/2s, 1/4s, 1/8s. Higher the denominator, lesser will be the duration of the light falling on the sensor, resulting lesser amount of light will fall on sensor. Can we also have the PIP mode, please, because we can actually show the video as well. Each of the slide, I would request that the video is being shown so that the clarity comes to the customer that the video is live and so is the slide. None of the slides should have no video at all, please. Now here is a shutter stand. Here is the please can we have the video and keep the video on, please. Yeah. Here is the shutter speed, which has I don't know what the shutter speed would be. I guess he'll tell about it. It's 2 seconds, basically showing the Worley Bandra Worley C-Link. We move to the next slide. The next slide has a shutter speed of 42 seconds. Looks beautiful, but I don't know what it is. We then move on to the next this thing. Now see, this is 1 of a 32,000th of a second. It is basically a looks like a falcon catching a fish, and the speed at which it does it, you need to have the shutter speed at that low a resolution. This is another shutter speed which is at a very high speed of 1:5,000 per second. Then we move on to the next parameter, which is the ISO. ISO is the sensor's sensitivity to the light. What exactly does he mean is how much is your sensor sensitive to light. If it is low sensor sensitivity, camera will not respond to low light and will act neutral. So dark images, underexposed images will be seen. But if it is a high sensor sensitivity, then it will correctly get exposed. Alright, here is a beautiful image of a picture. We can have the video along with it, which is at ISO 100. The same particular thing we have done it, which is at ISO 800. Now, when you increase the sensitivity of the camera, what happens is the pictures will turn blurrish. That's exactly what is ISO 800. So, well, you'll get more light on the sensor, but it becomes very blurrish. We move to the next slide, and this basically talks about what I was trying to put the point. ISO auto, if you see, is blurrish. ISO 100 is blurrish, but as you increase the ISO, that is more light coming onto the sensor, the blurrishness further increases and the image practically becomes totally blurred. Then exposure triangle is another thing, which basically talks about 3 parameters that we talked about: the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. Now, depending on what the subject is, depending on the light conditions, depending on what kind of a camera you have, all 3 parameters together will give you that fantastic picture that you're looking at, and that will only come through practice. Now, different exposure modes in the camera. You have the auto mode, which normally camera people say not to use it, because if you want to learn camera, this thing, then you should never have it on auto mode, because on the auto mode it is a camera which does all the trick. This is full auto mode that we are talking about. This is full manual, and this is the semi-automatic. Now, usually if you want to learn camera thing, semi-automatic is the right way to do it. Oh, there's one more which is called scene modes. All right, now different exposure modes in camera. In aperture priority, you specify what aperture you require. Now these are basically shutter priority, manual. Manual is practically on your own. Everything you have to specify to the camera. Now there are various exposure modes, like for portrait there is a specific exposure mode, for landscape, for sports and action, as well as for auto. So 3 essentials of photography is dedication, commitment and passion. Get your basics right, be friends with your camera, spend more time shooting in the field with your camera. Trial and error will fetch you results. Self-evaluation and open for critique. Learn intricacies from the masters in the industry, master the composition techniques, and to break the rules, first master them. We then move on to dedication, commitment and passion, and here are some of the ways in which he has actually done photography, where he is lying on the ground and doing photography. Normally they say you have to shoot images at eye level, which is very important. These are some of the other images which are there. We could have the PIP in this, please, so that the client is aware. PIP, please, picture in picture, so that the client is aware of the video also going live. Then this is another one. This is another picture which is there. I'm just quickly going through all the pictures. So that you get an idea that we are shifting fast. Alright, now this is one of the very important picture that he had specifically said. It's actually basically 2 elephants photographed together. So it looks very creative and it looks very nice and elegant. We have a lion yawning. Yeah, there's another picture that we have. We could shift the video now on top because it's coming on the lines. Can we just shift the video a little bit on top, please? Shift the video on top. We can shift the video on top of the screen, please. Yeah, that's better. All right. We also have another picture of a tiger hiding behind the rocks. Then we have the tiger licking his arm.